Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our Zoom worship service. We begin our service by acknowledging that the land on which our homes and our church were built was not uninhabited when European settlers arrived here with their ideas of conquest and ownership. For those of us who live in Moscow, Pullman, or other nearby communities, we live on the ancestral homelands of the Nimipu called Nez Perce by the French-speaking traders, the Palouse, and the Shitshumsh called the Coeur d'Alene. I encourage you to discover who inhabited or moved through the place where you now live in the times before colonization and genocide. We pause and remember that we live on ground that is sacred, ground that was stolen, ground that cries out for justice and for responsible stewardship. May our remembering help us find the courage to do our part to restore wholeness to the earth and all her peoples. And now let's join our voices together for our words of welcome, our unison chalice lighting, and our sung affirmation. Please say these words with me. Whoever you are, wherever you've come from, whatever your beliefs, whomever you love, and however bumpy your life's journey, know that you are welcome here. We're hoping that everyone has a chalice or a candle to light and something to light it with. Let's light it all together.
Hi, we're the Stewarts. I'm Lena.
I'm Julia.
And I'm Lex. In the light of truth and the warmth of love, we gather to seek and seek to share.
From all that dwell below the skies, let songs of hope and love arise. Let beauty, truth, and good be sung in every land by every tongue.
So again, good morning. Today's service is a very special one. In advance of the International Day Against Homophobia, which is tomorrow, we'll hear from some members of our community who have broken free of heteronormative culture and or the gender binary. They'll share some of the challenges they've faced and continue to face, and the gifts that come when they're able to embrace the fullness of who they are. We are in the midst of a sea change as more people become aware that gender is way more complex than pink or blue, and that love and commitment between consenting adults is always sacred. Unitarian Universalists have been just behind the leading edge of that wave, getting educated individually and collectively through the Welcoming Congregation program, confronting our internalized homophobia, and showing up in support of our LGBTQIA+ siblings in the public square. Our commitment to radical hospitality means that we don't just tolerate or accept, we celebrate all of the many and varied ways of being human. Gender constructs and culturally prescribed sexual roles are a trap built by the patriarchy to exert control. It's time and past time to retire them and to build a world where every single person is both safe and free to express on the outside the truth of who they are on the inside. Every single person is safe and free to find happiness and love. Every single person is both safe and free to become who they are meant to be. So holding this in our heart, let's sing together when our heart is in a holy place.
When our heart is in a holy place, when our heart is in a holy place, we are blessed with love and amazing grace. When
Good morning. My name is Theo, and I'm with the UUCP Family Ministries and RE. First off, I want to remind everyone that after service today at PCI at noon, children will be exploring the first principle of UUism by celebrating our differences through artistic expression and interacting with nature. For our youth group, we will be wrapping up our book on anti-racism with a group discussion. Refreshments will be provided. So for today's Time for All Ages, I would like to share this book called Morris Micklewhite and the Tangerine Dress. This book is about being able to express who you are. It's about a little boy named Morris who wants to be able to wear a dress. In our culture, a lot of people have a view that boys wearing dresses is wrong. This view is not shared by everyone around the globe, and many cultures are okay with boys wearing dresses. Have you ever heard of someone being told that they can't do something because it's not what their gender is supposed to do? How do we deal with situations like that? Morris might be able to give you some tips. Morris Micklewhite and the Tangerine Dress. Morris Micklewhite has a mother named Moira and a cat named Moo. Morris likes Sundays because his mother makes him pancakes on Sundays. Does anybody else's parents make them pancakes on Sundays? Oops, shouldn't have done that. There we go. Mondays are great too, because on Mondays, Morris goes to school. Morris likes lots of things about school. He likes to paint, he likes to do puzzles, he likes the apple juice at snack time, and singing the loudest during circle time. Most of all, Morris likes the dress up center. And the tangerine dress. Morris likes the color of the dress. It reminds him of tigers, the sun, and his mother's hair. He likes the noises the dress makes. Swish, swish, swish when he walks, and crinkle, crinkle, crinkle when he sits down. He takes turns wearing all the different shoes, but his most favorite ones go click, click, click across the floor. Sometimes the boys make fun of Morris. Sometimes the girls do too. Morris pretends he can't hear their words over the swish, swish, swishes, crink, crink, crinkles, and click, click, clicks he makes when he walks. Morris pretends he can't hear their words, but he can't. On Monday, Becky tried to pull the dress right off his back. You can't wear it, you're a boy. On Tuesday, Eli, Henry, and the other boys wouldn't let Morris ride on their spaceship unless he took the dress off. Astronauts don't wear dresses. On Wednesday, Thea and Lila noticed Morris' fingernails. His mother had painted them for him the night before. They chased him around the playground shouting, "Pinky fingers, pinky fingers." On Thursday, the boys wouldn't sit near Morris at the snack table. We don't want you to turn us into girls. On Friday, Morris pretended he had a tummy ache when he thought all of the kids in his class and all the mean things they did and said, his tummy ached for real. His mother let him stay in his bed and read books about elephants. Moo sat in his laps. Moo liked elephants too. On Saturday, Morris's mother brought him some apple juice. As he took a sip, she stroked his hair. Moo purred loudly. Morris suddenly felt well enough to do a puzzle. He hummed to himself and felt better still. On Sunday, Morris crawled out from under the covers after a wonderful dream about being on a space safari with Moo. In the dream, they saw big blue elephants and tigers the color of the sun that Morris could hold in the palm of his hand. The elephants swish, swish, swished as they moved through the grass, and the tigers ate giant leaves that crink, crink, crinkled as their tiny teeth chewed them. The buttons on the spaceship click, click, clicked under Morris's fingers. Morris wanted to share all the amazing things he had seen. He took out his brushes, put on his smock, and began to paint, using every color he could imagine. He showed his painting to his mother when he was done. He pointed out the big blue elephant, the tiny tiger, the color of the sun, the tall grass, and the giant leaves. He pointed out Moo in his shiny round space helmet. And who's that? His mother asked, pointing at the little boy in the tangerine dress, riding atop the big blue elephant. Morris was hoping she'd ask. That's me, he said. On Monday, Morris went to school with his painting rolled up in his backpack. When he had the chance, he put on the dress that reminded him of tigers and the sun and his mother's hair. Morris swish, swish, swish. The tangerine dress crinkled. His shoes click, click, clicked. Morris felt wonderful. Eli and Henry wouldn't let him on their spaceship, so Morris built his own. He hung his painting on the front of it and climbed in, ready to take off. Are there really elephants in space? Eli asked. And tigers? If you follow me, we can find out, Morris offered. Eli and Henry followed Morris to a planet they had never visited before. As they explored, Morris swished, swish, swished. The tangerine dress crinkled. His shoes click, click, clicked. By the time they returned to Earth, Eli and Henry had decided that it didn't matter if astronauts wore dresses or not. The best astronauts were the ones who knew where all the good adventures were hiding. Morris smiled. He already knew that. When snack time was over, Becky demanded the dress. Morris told her she could have it when he was done with it. Boys don't wear dresses, Becky sniped. Morris smiled as he swished, crinkled, and clicked back to this spaceship. This boy does. The end. Morris had a really hard thing to go through. Sadly, I think we have all had situations like this. You know, you're pressured by others to change. I feel like in these situations, we were encountering what Morris encountered. This terrifying feeling of doing something outside the norm of what our friends, classmates, or even parents want, and then being told by them to stop. This type of pressure is not just about gender expression. In these situations, our inner voice is telling us what to do in order to be happy. We have to fight for it like Morris did. Because while a lot of people are okay with others' differences, some people are not okay with it. We may encounter these people at work, at school, or out in public. How do we stay true to ourselves and be really brave in these situations? Like speaking up for others and for ourselves. We have to challenge what people think boys or girls should do. And how do we take time for ourselves to rest and recharge with those we love, like Morris did, in order to continue on being ourselves in a world that sometimes does not appreciate it? We're building a community and finding friends who appreciate us for who we are, with room for us to grow. I feel like that's what the UU community is for me. And so I'm signing off today with love and appreciation for our community.
invite you now into a time of meditation. Let's begin by taking a few deep breaths together. With each inhale, imagine unconditional love and acceptance flooding into every part of your body. With each exhale, release any cultural conditioning that doesn't fit, that doesn't serve. If you are willing, go back in time into your memories. Bring to mind a moment when you were told that something about you wasn't okay, wasn't acceptable, wasn't worthy of love. I'm not talking about basic manners, not a moment when someone told you that it wasn't okay to hit other people or that you had to share or say please and thank you. What we want to let rise into the center of our consciousness are moments at which someone used shame or shoulds to limit our personhood. Perhaps if you were born into a body assigned female at birth, you were taught to hide your anger, tamp down your fire, told you needed to be nice, to stay clean and look pretty. Perhaps if you were born into a body assigned male at birth, you were taught to hide your grief, your fear, your longing for connection. You were told you needed to be strong and brave and in charge. Let rise memories of being teased or bullied, of changing who you were in an attempt to be safe, to fit in. Let rise memories of turning away from attraction, infatuation, or love, because somehow you'd been taught that the object of your affection was off limits. If you are like me, there are many of these moments. Now, as an adult, I know better. I know that every person deserves to be safe and whole. I know that I deserve to grow up safe and whole. I know that you deserve to grow up safe and whole. Bring that knowing to your younger self. Surround them with unconditional love. Breathe it in. Breathe it in again. And keep breathing until every part of you knows that you are beautiful just as you are, that you are blessed, a sacred and holy creation, unique and perfectly imperfect. And you are beloved beyond all measure, held always and ever by that love which abides. Let us rest in it together in the silence for a moment.
You with the sad eyes, don't be discouraged, oh, I realize it's hard to take courage in a world full of people. You can lose sight of it all. The darkness inside you can make you feel so small. A letter to my younger self. I know life seems hopeless. I know you're in pain. Please, hold on. The world may seem colorless, but your future is an endless rainbow. Don't believe me? Then let me show you. Show me a smile, then. Don't be unhappy, can't remember when I last saw you laughing. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. I see true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid. Let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. Oh, like a rainbow. Like a rainbow. If this world makes you crazy and you've taken all you can bear, just call me up, 'cause I will always be there. And I see your true colors shining through. I see your true colors, and that's why I love you. So don't be afraid to let them show your true colors. True colors are beautiful. Oh, rainbow. Like a rainbow.
I've watched that video like 4 times. I still can't get through it without crying. So our culture is pretty aggressive about the whole gender thing. The reveal parties, the pink and blue aisles in the toy store, the way we inappropriately sexualize younger and younger girls, and then all the absurd and unjust anti-trans legislation that's getting pushed through in certain states, including Idaho. Our culture is also weirdly fixated on maximizing reproduction, which might have made sense hundreds of years ago when infant mortality was such a big issue, but it really doesn't make sense anymore. I've come to understand that both heteronormativity and the gender binary are false cultural constructs, tools of the patriarchy. And as such, it's not just for the sake of my out LGBTQIA plus siblings that we need to dismantle them, but all our sakes. What you're about to see is evidence that when people are safe and free, joy, authenticity, and creative energy bloom in ways that are just stunningly beautiful and right and good and necessary. Paul? So hello, Rebecca and Teresa. Can you tell us just a little bit about who you are and how you met and how long you've been together?
Go ahead. I'm Rebecca. I have lived in Moscow since 1984, and I moved to Idaho from Iowa many years ago. Grew up Lutheran. When I got to Moscow, after a few years I was here, I met Teresa in 1991, and let's see. I came out as gay way back in the 70s, back in Iowa and stuff. So I've had a whole lifetime of that kind of experience. I worked at the University of Idaho in the Women's Center as the LGBT coordinator for 5 years, actually, position and all that stuff. So yeah. And Teresa, I met in 1991. This is our 30th year together.
I lived in California and came up here in 91 and met Rebecca. And I have a completely different story from Rebecca because she was my first girlfriend.
Uh-huh.
What do you mean your first? Your last? No. Just kidding. No. Yeah, she didn't grow up gay, in other words. So this is our 25 years ago this year, we were married in the Unitarian Church. 30 years ago we met. So
my name is Juno, and I use he, him, and they, them pronouns, and I identify as a non-binary transgender human. I also sometimes will refer to myself as gender fluid or gender expansive. And I also identify as bisexual and under the like queer umbrella. I realize that's a huge mouthful.
My name is Theo. I've worked with the UU, I believe, for 2 or 3 years now in the nursery department. I came out as non-binary last August, and now I am using pronouns of he/they. Yeah.
I'm Ellis Barrett. I finally settled on the last name. Well, it's hard to say anything about myself because I think I'm a pretty boring, normal person. Which sounds, well, in this context, that's all I really want to be. I identify as a trans man, and I actually identify as trans first, and then a man, because it's part of my experience. I was seen as and treated as a woman for over 30 years before I started transitioning, and that's always going to shape who I am and who I am going forward. But I look forward to the time where that's not a consideration, where I'm just myself.
Are there times when you felt like it wasn't okay or it wasn't safe to embrace who you are and sort of the fullness of your identity?
So I grew up in a rural community similar to Moscow, Pullman, Palouse area. My graduating class was 170 people, which was a lot smaller than some of the other area high schools. And I ran into a lot of homophobia growing up. I was not out as a trans person until my adult years. I didn't even really know that that was a thing that I could be, I guess. My senior year of high school, I was the focus of a bully who ended up, we were allowed seniors were allowed to paint the front of their lockers as a like school spirit thing, you know, go class 2008. And this bully, her name was Ashley, still remember her name, had carved the word dyke into my locker painting. And her and I had gotten into confrontations before, including a time where I basically said, well, you can either punch me or we can, you know, get over this. She didn't punch me, which I'm grateful for.
Yeah, well, like I said, I grew up in Iowa and grew up in Lutheran family, Lutheran church, Lutheran school, Lutheran college. In the 70s, we had Anita Bryant and the Save Our Children, and the message that I grew up internalizing was that I might as well be a murderer or a, you know, just that of being really a bad person. I fell in love with a woman in college, and we, you know, started a relationship, but we just would be, you know, every other night, you know, praying, let's not do this, you know, take this away from us. Or I'd be praying on my own, you know, make me different than I am. Please make me normal, I guess, is the thing that a lot of us, you know, lay in bed praying at night.
I was actually talking with my boyfriend about this, and he joked like, well, only for like the first 30 or so years of your life. Life is
Right.
how that was. And I mean, he was right. I feel like I spent most of my life feeling like I couldn't embrace who I was. Because, well, first off, I had a hard time. I didn't have the language for who I was, so I wasn't able to communicate who I was, either to myself or to everyone else. Sorry, I lost it. And it, like growing up, like with like my family, it was like it was never like they rejected who I was because they didn't know.
Right.
I didn't know how to tell them. They always knew I was kind of more on the masculine side, and so like they never like really pushed me to, you know, be girly or anything. But I always, in the back of my mind, I always wondered, is this the one thing that, you know, is this the thing that would just cause my family to just be like, yeah, you know what, I think I'll pass on them.
Had been kind of struggling with it for about like 4 or 5 years since I basically I was around 20, and my partner and I would talk about that topic, and it would be so hard to stay focused on because of how uncomfortable it would make me. So over the years, I've been able to get more and more in touch with myself until I came out. Yeah.
How long of a gap was there between coming out to yourself and coming out to the world?
I had come out to myself in January of the same year, and picked like a new name and used the non-binary pronouns, but it was only my partner. It was not a good time to express who I was, which sounds so silly to say that now because things would have, I feel now that it would have gone a little bit more smoother if I had been able to come out to everybody back in that time. But I think I needed that time for growing who I was.
It's been a very up and down road with the previous administration. You know, I thought about being less vocal about being trans and, you know, just for the safety of our family. And that was a really crummy feeling. That was not, you know, I want to be who I am and I should feel safe to be who I am. And that was tough. And thankfully, we have moved on from that. And in our community, I feel fairly safe. And that is something that I definitely don't take for granted, because and even still, you know, when I travel to places, there are places where, oh, we're just friends, you know, oh, we're sisters, you know, and it's for safety. It doesn't feel good, but it's still a thing in some places, in particular rural places.
It came out in ways that I did not understand at the time. And I was very angry, and I didn't know what or why. I'm here.
What are the times and what are the ways that, and what are the things that help you feel just completely beloved and celebrated and seen?
Joining the Unitarian Church. We
Well,
had
yeah.
been hearing about it, and then in 1993, we heard that a new minister was coming and she was bringing her wife. And we thought, oh, that's a church for us. And that was Lynn Unger. And she married us in 96.
Yeah, the first drag show I went to, I was a young adult. It was actually a tabby cat show here on the Flues. And it was the first time that I had ever been in a room full of family, you know. And I rode a like dopamine high for like days afterwards, because it just felt so good to be amongst people that were so non-judgmental and so welcoming, and you know, kind of butting up into that is Pride here on the Palouse.
I guess when I first got my chest binder, I was able to go outside and kind of just feel how it would be. And it definitely felt so much more like me. And I felt like a warm feeling in my chest, and it was happiness, you know. And oof, that was a crazy thing to get in touch with. True happiness. It just feels so great and so delightful. Yeah.
Oh my gosh, I feel like I didn't even know what happy meant until a couple years ago. And I feel terrible for saying that, because I have children. And when people think about like the happiest moments in their lives, of course, like, oh yes, when my children were born and stuff like that. And happiest moment was like when I was born, like when I was finally able to just emerge as myself.
I feel like now it's such a difference with living my authentic life. I feel like my soul reaches every part of my body, and it's not just so contained.
So I was just myself, and people just accepted who I was, and I didn't hide anything. And even now, I always just refer to my wife. And I think that's good for people to see someone who is open and comfortable with being gay, and they are more accepting.
It's true. And, you know, of course, I agree how wonderful it is to be here and be part of this community, and, you know, have had the UUCP as sort of a springboard to go out in the community in a stronger way. I'm not naive enough to think that, you know, we could just go everywhere and be how we are here, though. And I kind of don't want people to forget that it's not over, as far as people feeling safe and feeling, you know, that kind of thing out in the world. But
Yeah.
gosh, when you, it's like being planted in good soil, you know, and being able to bloom whereas, you know, this or somebody taking care of the soil. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Finding the UU church and just being welcomed with open arms, and we just I don't ever feel like uncomfortable around the folks that are a part of our church family, and that's how we talk about everybody, is that's our church family. And it feels good to know that it doesn't matter what our family looks like, or who we are as a family of humans, that we are not only accepted but loved and and wanted and needed, and that is just invaluable, really.
The first places where I came out were 2 small groups within our church, and then that's where I went out. Like, I saved my husband for last. Oops. But it's like, I guess I kind of knew how that was gonna go. So, but like, I mean, the church groups, I mean, okay, relatively lower stakes, but also I just knew I'd be accepted.
Yeah.
And I'm so glad that I was, because I really needed you guys when it didn't go so well with the other people.
I really appreciated being able to be here and to be at the UU and to have had a lot of my life change because of being able to be around people who accept me for who I am. So thank you.
Thank you doesn't seem like enough to say in response to the folks who spoke and shared their truths with us. But thank you all so much for being you, for being a part of our community, and for sharing from your heart your experience of what it means to be human. And thank you too for inviting us to imagine a world where everyone is free to be themselves, everywhere. A world where love is allowed and celebrated, regardless of whether it fits society norms or not. A world where we're able to go beyond acceptance to celebration, to blessing, to awe and wonder at all of the myriad of miraculous ways people have to be human. Holding that, imagining, I'd invite you now to shift your Zoom to gallery view. See all of the, scroll through the faces as we sing this last hymn, which is How Could Anyone Ever Tell You? And just look at the beautiful faces and look at your own face. And I invite you to sing this song straight from the heart.
How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul. How could anyone ever tell you you were anything less than beautiful? How could anyone ever tell you you were less than whole? How could anyone fail to notice that your loving is a miracle? How deeply you're connected to my soul.
Our closing reading is Any Other Questions? By my colleague, the Reverend Victoria Safford. People ask me sometimes, is this a gay church? It is a privilege to answer. Ours is absolutely, gladly, hopefully, and humbly, gaily, a gay church, a gay tradition where everyone, including heterosexual members and friends, is welcome, where everyone is needed, where everyone's experience is cherished as a sacred text, because no one's experience of living or loving can be comprehensive, because each of us holds clues the others need about how to live with dignity and joy as a human person, and none of us knows enough about that yet to be considered whole. It is absolutely a gay church, even as ours is a gay world. If you would look around, gay church, straight church, people's church, a human congregation made holy by the holy hopes and fears and dreams of all who wish to come. Come in, we say. Come out, come in. We're all in this together. I will not speak of tolerance with its courteous clenched teeth and bitter resignation. I will not speak about acceptance of other people and some other kind of lifestyle. I can only look in laughing wonder at human life in all its incarnations. I can taste only in passing the breath of the spirit of life on my mouth and understand our common longing to breathe in deep, deep gulps of it. I cannot think of being anybody else's ally even, because even that implies some degree of separation, some degree of safety for some of us, not all. We are allied with no one and with nothing but love. The larger love, transcending all our understanding, within which all the differing, gorgeously variant, beautifully deviant aspects of ourselves are bound in elegant unity. I know that on some sad and disappointing days, these words describe the church that yet shall be, and not the church that is. I know. But I know too that to answer is an act of creation. To answer this question and some others is a privilege, a prophetic imperative, a joy, a duty, and a holy sacrament. Let's sing together our musical benediction. Please say with me now the words to embody our chalice flame going forward. We extinguish this chalice that it might grow gently in our hearts. May it light our paths as we leave this place. May it guide our way until we are together again. Go forth then and know that whatever the shape and particularities of your flavor of human, you are beloved, you are blessed, You are held in this community and you belong in this world. The world needs you, every last bit. So may we be generous in spirit, and may we be brave in our loving and in our living. Amen, and blessed be.